There have been 316 different individuals who have played Big Brother before. That's a lot of people, which means that solidifying a legacy for oneself can be a bit difficult. But some have prevailed. Not only have they prevailed, but they have gone so far and beyond what anybody thought was capable in certain specific corners of the game, and that's what we're here to talk about today. I know in the past I have discussed different Big Brother records, but this here is a little bit more specific. Today we are looking at 10 records that I truly believe to be unbreakable. You could give me 100 more seasons of Big Brother, and as long as there's no crazy format changes, I bet all the BB bucks that I have that most of these records would stand. So what are the records? Let's find out. These are the 10 most unbreakable records in Big Brother.
Congratulations, Janelle.
I hold the record for most competition wins in a season. 5 powers of vetoes and 4 HOHs.
Buxom mixed with brains is a deadly combination.
So let's start things off with a wild one. The veto competition is an incredibly important cog in how any given week of Big Brother unfolds. It's the life vest for some while being the poison apple for others. So imagine what it must have felt like to go practically as far into the season as you could go without ever playing in one. So, our first unbreakable record is for the player who made it the furthest into a season without ever playing in a veto competition. Yeah, that name probably needs some work, but whatever. This record goes to Eric Stein in Big Brother 8, who competed in his first Power of Veto competition at the final 7. To put into perspective just how crazy this is, let me lay it out for you. To accomplish this record, you must A. Never win the HOH before Final 7, B. You cannot ever be an initial nominee, and C. You must never be chosen, randomly or not, during the veto draw. The odds of anyone accomplishing that are ridiculously low, and that's just to tie the record. In order to beat the record, you must make it through the majority of the game without winning a single thing, you must never be a target, and you have to get very unlucky in every veto draw until it gets down to 6 players, where then you are forced to play in the veto. With the amount of competitions and rounds that there are nowadays, I truly cannot see this record ever being overtaken.
So I haven't played in any of the Power of Vetoes yet, but now that I know about the mystery trip outside of the Big Brother house, I want to play badly. This is finally gonna be my week.
Here it comes. It's me.
House guest choice. I pick you.
Woo!
Jessica.
Yeah!
Zach.
And Zach.
Next up is a funny one because it's not actually a person that holds this record, but rather a season. The record in question is the season with the highest number of house guests to never cast a vote, and the holder is none other than Big Brother 14, with Jody being instantly evicted by Dan, then Kara being the first traditionally evicted house guest, then Willie being expelled in week 2 after being the HOH in week 1, and then Janelle being evicted in the first round that she became a player. We saw 4 players manage to leave the game without ever officially casting a vote to evict. If you don't think that this is crazy, then let me show you how this record can be reached in a normal season. Oh wait, you literally can't. That's it. In the first week, given a standard format, you will only have 3 players not cast a vote, the 2 nominees and the HOH. So it literally needs to have a quit, a format change, or some sort of twist on the season, plus a perfect mix of players being evicted in order for this record to even be tied, let alone broken, which is why I have it as an unbreakable record.
Jody, I'm sorry, I have to evict you.
Kara, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
So Willie has been removed from the game.
Janelle, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Next up, we got 2 gold medals to give out to Kaser, but unfortunately, neither of them are for very good records. The first record of Kaser's is the most eviction votes cast against all time, which he holds with a whopping 33. That is more than 2 full casts of Big Brother and is more than likely unbreakable. The next closest person currently is Janelle with 21, so the only way that this record realistically has a chance of being beaten is if Janelle returns one more time and is unanimously evicted in a 13-0 vote in week 1. I personally don't find this very likely, which is why I think this record is pretty unbreakable. If you think that's sort of a cop-out due to me giving an example of how it technically could be broken, let me make up for it with Kaser's second record. Nobody will ever beat Kaser's record for the most times being evicted pre-jury. Kaser has been evicted an unbelievable 4 times before the jury stage starts. To put this one into perspective, there are literally only 2 other players that have even been evicted twice pre-jury, and Kaser has that doubled. I can't imagine a world where any Big Brother player would make enough of an impact to garner playing on 5 seasons while also being evicted pre-jury all 5 times. So I am definitely deeming this one to be a truly unbreakable record.
By a vote of 7-1, 5-1, of 10-0, by a unanimous vote, Kaser, you have been evicted from the Big Brother house.
Up next, it's an obvious one, but it's still just so ridiculous that it's definitely worth the mention. The next record on this list is the most consecutive nominations avoided in a single season, and the winner of that is Derek Levasseur, who managed to go 54 straight nominations without ever being put on the block. This record is never, ever being matched for as long as Big Brother is around. For starters, no other season in the history of Big Brother has even had 54 nominations. Big Brother 16 was the only season to feature this many, due to having 4 to 5 nominees each week because of the Battle of the Block twist, having 2 Final 5 rounds, and featuring a battle back. And the fact that Derek was still somehow able to avoid the block every single time is ridiculous. Based on the current format of the game, the absolute maximum number of nominations there can even be in a season is 41, and that's if the veto is used every single week. So Derek's 54 nominations avoided is legitimately impossible to overtake right now, which makes it an unbreakable record.
Judy. Seeing myself done up as a pharaoh really puts in perspective how good of a game I played this year. I wasn't nominated once through 55 noms and renoms.
Now, the next record might not seem very unbreakable, but when you dissect it a little further, you start to realize how beating it might be a problem. This record is for the most days played without ever having an eviction vote cast against them, and this one goes to Cody at 182 days. Not only is it hard enough to match this record because it already entailed someone needing to play 2 seasons pretty much perfectly and make it to the end both times, but what makes the record even more unbreakable is that there are simply just less days played in a season now. With the average season length being roughly 80 days now, that means that for a new player to achieve this, they would need to play 2 perfect Big Brother seasons in a row, and by that I mean they would need to make it to the final 2 both seasons and never have an eviction vote cast against them either time. But even then, that would only give them like 160 consecutive days, so then they would need to come back for a 3rd season and avoid seeing the block for the first few rounds. Is it impossible? No. Is it likely? Definitely not. Even players like Derek, who have a 99-day head start, would need to come back, play an entire season while never having a vote cast against him again, and then even still, he would be a couple days short and would need to come back a 3rd time. The only player that is genuinely close to breaking this record is Dan, but Dan would need to come back and avoid having a vote cast against him for the first 38 days to break the record. Realistically speaking, I don't know if Dan can avoid the block that long on a return. So I consider this record to be unbreakable for the time being.
House guests, the votes are in by a vote of 5-0. Zach, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Sticking on the topic of days, the next unbreakable Big Brother record, once more, might not seem that hard to beat, but once you really look at things, it becomes clear why I consider it unbreakable for the time being. And that's the record for the most days spent in the Big Brother house. Nicole Franzel currently holds this record at 255 days, which really is a ridiculous amount of time. With the way the game currently stands, it would be unreasonably difficult for any new player to break this record. Solely based on the fact that Big Brother seasons are around 80 to 85 days now, a new player would have to play 3 full seasons, make it to the very end on all 3 of those seasons, and they would need to come back a 4th time to scrape up those last few days in order to beat the record. So that pretty much means that this record will likely only be broken by someone who already has a lot of days in the house. But even when we look at those players, it would take a miracle for someone to pass Nicole. Cody, Paul, and Danny all technically have the potential of breaking the record if they returned, but A, they would need to last pretty much until the end game to have a shot at beating it, which I don't find very likely, and B, I'm pretty sure all 3 of those players are done playing, which really only leaves one person with a realistic shot at breaking the record, and that's Janelle. Janelle is sitting at a clean 200 days spent in the house, so Janelle would need to come back for a freaking 5th time and make it to at least day 56 to break the record. I unfortunately don't think that's very likely, so for now, I think Nicole's 255 days in the house will be a record for the time being.
This is my third
You
time.
know more than anybody.
I've been in the house more than any other house guest ever.
I just recently passed 230 days spent in this house. That's more than Paul.
Friendship.
That's more than Janelle. But I don't want to get too cocky here.
Oh, you passed Paul?
I've passed Paul.
You passed, oh. Yo,
I'm
you
the
gotta
two-
go.
I'm-
Great, Nicole. You've had the most amount of days in the Big Brother house. You're not going to win this season. Have the most amount of days in the Big Brother house and hold on to that because you're not going to be able to hold on to being a 2-time winner.
Next up, we have an easy one. This is the record for the most times evicted in a single season, which is currently held by Victor at 3 times. What makes this record so absolutely unbreakable is that I cannot imagine a single season even having 3 battle backs, let alone someone winning them all. The only way for Victor's record to be beaten is if someone comes into a season of Big Brother, gets evicted, then wins the pre-jury battle back, then gets evicted again, then wins the jury battle back, then gets evicted a 3rd time, then wins the 2nd jury battle back, and then gets evicted a 4th time before the final 2. Just by reading that out loud, you should recognize how absurd and unlikely that all sounds, both in terms of Big Brother actually featuring 3 battle backs and someone winning all 3 of them. Can someone ever tie Victor's record? Yeah, I think so. However, it has been 3 seasons in a row without a single battle back, so I'm not sure how long it'll be before Big Brother features not just 1, but 2 battle backs in the same season again. So for now, I think this record is Victor's to keep.
By a vote of 9-1, Victor, you are evicted from the Big Brother house. Victor, you are evicted from the Big Brother house. Victor, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Victor. Whoa, not hold on yet now. Stop, homie. We done seen it. Hold on now. It ain't done yet. We gotta play this next card.
We have to stop meeting like this, Victor. It's becoming a problem, okay?
The next record is unfortunately another brutal one. This record is for the player who has the most jury votes to win without ever actually winning. This record, of course, goes to Paul, who has a whopping 8 jury votes without ever actually taking the crown. The reason that this record is so unbreakable is that to beat it, you need to out-Paul Paul. Paul lost in a 5-4 vote in back-to-back seasons, meaning that they accumulated the maximum number of jury votes possible while still losing. So in order to beat this, not only would you need to replicate Paul's first 2 seasons by making it to the final 2 and losing both times while still accumulating some jury votes, but you would then also need to come back a 3rd time, make it to the final 2 again, and still lose. Because remember, if you win on the 3rd time, those votes won't count towards this record. So overall, you'll need to accumulate at least 9 jury votes throughout 3 seasons without ever actually winning. That seems like an impossible task, and unless Big Brother increases the size of the jury, I think Paul will retain this record forever.
James has cast his vote for Paul. Paul, 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 Paul. A bridesmaid once again.
And now for the last record, I've got one that is actually really unique. This record goes to the player who has nominated the most players in a single season, and that goes to Vanessa, who nominated 10 unique people on Big Brother 17. This record is actually really crazy because to beat it, you need to win at least 4 HOHs, you need the veto to be used in at least 3 of your HOH reigns, and you need to nominate different players pretty much every time you have the chance. The luck required for you to even have enough players to freshly nominate by the time you win your 3rd or 4th HOH is gonna be pretty insane. Also, you need to take into consideration that this player will need to survive the game while nominating pretty much everybody. Vanessa was such a hectic but intelligent player that she was able to get away with nominating over 60% of the cast, but most players aren't as good as Vanessa. So you do need to factor that into things as well. Overall, the amount of luck and skill that would go into obtaining this record would be pretty massive. So barring any twists, I consider this to be the 10th and final unbreakable record that we'll talk about today.
James, I've nominated you. John, I've nominated you very similarly. And Jeff, please take a seat. I've nominated you, Clay, and you, Becky. Jason, take a seat. I've nominated you, Meg. Unfortunately, Julia, please take a seat. I've nominated you, Steve. I'm gonna try to do the fair thing. So Austin, please take a seat.
And there we go. There are certainly other obscure records that you could argue are unbreakable, but these are the records I decided to land on today. If you have an unbreakable record that you think is interesting, please comment it down below because I am absolutely infatuated with statistics like these, and I think they're really cool. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I, of course, need to give that extra special shout out to all of my YouTube members who consistently make me feel like I am unbreakable. And, as always, here's a clip for you on your way out.
Time to pick players for the veto competition. As HOH, I will pick first.
Guarantee it for the first one.
Oh, you think in the first one, do you?
Yeah.
Danielle.
Wrong.
Guess not.
House guest choice. Guess what? Lucky you, dude.
If you win this, you're off the block.
That is correct. Congratulations, Eric. You have won the power of veto.
Woo!
That's it.
Welcome to the veto competitions, baby! Woo!